Moving on, and this is something that got a lot of coverage. And this was Becky Hammon. She's an assistant coach under Greg Popovich in San Antonio. Um, this was a game between the Spurs and the Los Angeles Lakers in which Popovich was ejected. The reason is kind of like irrelevant, it's just Pop being Pop. But compared to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was either last year or the year before. Becky Hammon's been an assistant for a long time, and Tim Duncan was also an assistant. And so when Popovich got ejected, I believe the most recent time, it was not Becky Hammon who took the duties; it was Tim Duncan, and Becky Hammon has seniority over Tim Duncan. So I think that was pretty interesting, and I don't remember it being super controversial either. It was more like, "Oh, Tim Duncan's coaching the team," and it seems like now it's kind of like reverse backlash of why wasn't she the coach when Popovich got ejected before. It's like delayed backlash. It's pretty weird, but nevertheless, she filled in per Popovich. I just want to read some of these comments here. Um, it says, Spurs assistant Becky Hammon filled in for an ejected Greg Popovich. She is believed to be the first woman to act as a head coach during an NBA regular season game. Here's some comments from Popovich. As you all
Did you
know,
think?
oh, go ahead.
Sorry if I can stop you there.
Yeah,
I just thought that was a Twitter post by ESPN, what you
yeah,
just read there, and
sure.
is really odd that they said she is believed to be. Like
I
I
thought
don't
so.
understand. Like, are NBA records written in hieroglyphics or something? Like, why don't we
Yeah.
know for sure that she is the first female coach to coach any quarter of basketball? I just thought the wording there was pretty odd, and a lot of people felt that way on Twitter as well, from what I saw. I'm not trying to put ESPN on blast or anything, but it just kind of puts this like seed of doubt in your mind, like, is she or isn't she? I Because it seems like she is.
It's a valid point. I don't know why they phrased that either. It just makes it seem like it's ambiguous, like there was some kind of women's assistant coach we didn't know about. So it poor wording on ESPN's part. I'll put them on blast. I don't know why they worded that way. That didn't really make any sense. But nevertheless, what Popovich said, um, as you all know, we're very participatory. Can't say that word. I would like to have my coach's coach. The Lakers were her scout team. It made total sense for her to take over. That's what we've done for decades. There's nothing new, Popovich said, on a larger scale. That's why it wasn't a big deal to me because I know her. I know her skills. I know her value. And I know her future is very, very bright. I understand the attention it got, but in all honesty, I assumed that most people already knew that she was qualified to be a head coach in the NBA. We didn't hire Becky to make history. She earned it. She's qualified. She's wonderful at what she does. Popovich said, I want her to be on my staff because of all the work that she does. And she happens to be a woman, which basically should be irrelevant, but it's not in our world as we've seen, as it's been difficult for women to obtain certain positions, it was business as usual for us. So I want to ask you, and I'll bring up this other show, No Dunks. They talked about this, and some of them said it wasn't news that this happened. I strongly disagree, and I think they were bringing up, hey, this is not news because she should already be a coach. But I think that's exactly the point. She should be a coach, so this should be highlighted every single time this happens, because similarly to African American coaches within the league, I think certainly with women's head coaches compared to other sports, it's within NBA there is a direct pipeline of experienced women to have professional experience. You can't really say that in other sports. I mean, there is a one-on-one correlation with WNBA and the NBA in terms of Becky Hammon playing on the elite level in which she's permitted to play in. So when she's a coach and when she's been under this coaching tree for Popovich for a long time, and she's applied for many coaching gigs and she's been offered college coaching gigs in which she has rejected. I think it's imperative to highlight when this happens so she can one day get a head coaching job within the NBA. I want to ask you because I think the game is kind of irrelevant. We already know her skills as a coach. I don't think that needs to be questioned or dissected. However, I do want to ask you moving forward, what do you think is the hesitation between teams not giving her an opportunity to coach? Is it ultimately like they're afraid to be first? What is the hesitation for her to just get an open coaching spot? Because there's coaching vacancies all the time. She's in the coaching tree. Is it the fact that No Dunks brought it up that a lot of Spurs assistant coaches have not done well, so that's the hesitation? Or is it just because of her gender? I mean, what is going on? Because you would think at around this time she would get an opportunity. At the same time, we've seen a lot of her counterparts, mostly African American, struggle to get those opportunities too. So, what exactly is the holdup in your opinion?
I don't know personally what Becky Hammon has applied for, if she has kind of wanted to stay in San Antonio and be the heir apparent to Coach Popovich. May be the case once he retires, because I think you and I would probably agree. I mean, unless something catastrophic happens, like some kind of scandal, I mean, Popovich is not getting fired from San Antonio. He's earned that with the titles that he's won. So uh, personally, I don't know Becky Hammond. I don't know what jobs she has applied for. So I can't really speak to her being held back from other teams rejecting her, things like that. She has been a Spurs assistant since the 2014-2015 NBA season, and they've had a lot of success in that time. I know they've been on a downward trajectory for the last few years, but she has gotten in that valuable experience. So you would think, to your point, like guys like Mike Budenholzer, Brett Brown, guys that were assistants under Popovich, you would think that she would follow in that trend with them and be hired either as the heir apparent in San Antonio, or to another prospective NBA team. Um, and I don't know. I mean, I think that, yeah, I mean, I'll just say it's corny, but one of my firm beliefs is that, if you're setting yourself up like she is, you're working hard like she is, you're earning it the way she is, then I think good things will come. And I also think this is arguably the most, if not the most, then one of the most progressive sports leagues. So I have very strong faith, because of the work that she's put in, that she will earn that head coaching position if she wants it. And I think it's just more a matter of time than anything. And if you look at coaching careers other than, say, like a player turning into a coach, like, say, Steve Nash, very little, relatively speaking. Not to say there was no coaching experience, but compared to other coaches in this league, and especially assistants, um, Steve Nash had next to no experience in comparison to guys sitting on your typical NBA assistant bench. I mean, there are assistant coaches that go 20 plus years before they get a head coaching job. So I don't think I'm ready to be upset or worked up that Becky Hammon isn't a head coach just yet. But I do firmly believe she will earn it if that's what she wants to do. And it seems like it is what she wants to do. So it may just be a matter of time. Again, it may just be a matter of Popovich stepping down, and she wants to be the heir apparent there with players that she's very familiar with, being the trailblazer that she is, in the first woman doing this. Maybe she wants that familiarity with the organization. I don't know her well enough to speak to that personally, but I do believe in her coaching legitimacy. And you and I spoke. We actually retweeted Lindsay Darkangelo, a friend of the show, about that Bulls opening. And, hey, think about Becky Hammon for this opening in Chicago, which ultimately, as we know, didn't pan out. But, I think you and I are on the same page where we agree in her legitimacy as a coach and everything. I don't know. Do you get the sense that she's being held back?
Yes and no. I think, like you said, it's going to happen. She's going to get a head coaching job just because she's under
Okay.
that coaching tree with Popovich. I mean, it's just when you're under that strong of a coaching tree, she's going to get an opportunity. It is a little bit suspect that it's taken this long. It just seems a little bit fishy to me, but is it like a massive outrage? Not yet, but I think it has the potential to be if she's applying for these jobs and not getting them. I mean, it's one thing if she's not going out there and interviewing, but she is. So I think the question is why aren't you hiring her? What is the difficulty? I think it's one thing if the league had precedent in terms of, hey, like you said, all the coaches had to wait their turn before getting a head coaching spot, that would make sense, but it's not. Like you mentioned, Steve Nash. And there's been other coaches too with minimal coaching experience, and also coaches from, they started as video coordinators and they worked their way up too. So with Becky Hammon
Mm.
being, her an accomplished athlete and then also under this coaching tree and being successful, there's either two ways. Either A, she's being prevented because of her gender, or there's something going on with her we don't know in terms of people interviewing her and they just don't see her as a head coach that we're not seeing. So I think it's something that we'll have to watch for. But now, if I'm ready just to cry like an outrage over this, no. But the next couple of years, as we see different coaching vacancies, and there are going to be a lot, just the way the NBA works, I think it has the potential to becomes an issue that the league will have to deal with. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and again, I would iterate. I mean, I'll be fully honest. I thought for a long time about becoming a basketball coach myself as a career trajectory. Before I settled into what I ultimately wound up doing. And more the rule than the exception is 10 plus years of experience doing either assistant work or, like you said, video coordinator work, stuff like that before you get a head coaching position. And I think she's putting in the work. She's started ahead of compared to where a lot of people start in that career path. So I do think she's going to get the chance. Um, that may be in another 5 years. I think she's filling up her resume nicely, and she should be hired. And it's just a matter of
Yeah.
time, a matter of lining up ideologies with whatever organization it is. Maybe it's again in San Antonio, and I do think the the first outrage that we might see, or I guess serious, maybe popularized outrage, because let's face it, there's always going to be some kind of outrage, but the more like mainstream outrage that I think we could potentially see is if Popovich retires while she's on his staff and she doesn't get hired as the heir apparent. And
Good
I
point.
and I don't necessarily think that it's fair to blame San Antonio if they don't hire her automatically as the heir apparent. If they are wanting to go with a different ideology after having Popovich for so long. I don't think any team should be forced to hire anyone, and whether it's in San Antonio or somewhere else, I think she is going to get hired. But I do, but that's not something that San Antonio should be worried about anyway, and it doesn't sound like they are worried about it. I mean, I love personally what Popovich said there about just giving her full credit that she's here because of her skills as a coach. I want her here because of that, and she's putting in the work. He's not patting himself on the back for oh, look how progressive I am. I have a woman on staff or whatever. It shouldn't be that way. It should be full credit to Becky Hammon for the great work that she's doing.
Yeah, totally agreed. It's something to watch out for. Um, just again in the off season to see what happens with her. And I think you're right about her being the heir apparent to Popovich when he retires. I think that'll probably be the biggest story and the more glaring omission if she's not hired there.